And we are live. Welcome back to MoonCon 22. Different format for you. Sorry, you're going to look at my face again. I'm here with the very lovely Katrina Townsend to talk about her book. Katrina, do you want to tell people who you are, what your book is?
Hello. I'm going to try not to gabble at you too much because I'm super nervous, so bear with. This is my book. Oh, where's my camera? There it is. That's the book. It's coming out this November from Moon Books, and it's maybe slightly different to other pagan books you might have read. It's a memoir. I actually sent Moon Books my journals on a whim, and they said yes. So happy day for me. But it's about how I tried to give up shopping, and I know shopping isn't really a thing that we talk about in the pagan community. I know. How I thought that was going to work, I don't know. It didn't go according to plan. I actually found myself, my life changed. I know that's such a cliche, but honestly, it changed my life. It led me to reconnect with nature. And then it led me to Druidry, which I am now a student of, which is why I'm here today. So yeah, not shopping. My life.
There's all the husbands and partners all over going, you need this book. I love the image. Can you hold the book up again? The image on the front is beautiful.
Oh, where are we? There we are.
I love that.
I think it's me, and oh god, I wish it was. I wish. No.
No, it is beautiful. I love the artwork. Fantastic. So the actual title is of the book,
The Anti-Consumerist Druid.
Cool. Does what it says what it does on the tin? No, yeah, something like that. It is your personal story. It is your memoir. So it actually reads, and you do tell us about your family too, because you have a little one, don't you, at home?
Yes.
How old?
Oh.
It's always fun with children. So how did this all come about? So how did looking at your shopping addiction, and I'm sure we've all got a shopping addiction to some degree.
It's very normal.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? How did it lead you to Druidry?
It was kind of, I mean, looking back, it's almost an obvious linear progression, but at the time, I was very confused. I gave up shopping for a year, or I tried to, as you will read in the book. I failed horribly. I'm still trying. I still want to achieve that. My husband doesn't think it will ever happen, so we'll see. And that once you stop shopping, you have, or I certainly had, this void, what to do with my time, what to do with my headspace. And I found myself spending more and more time in nature. And I started to feel this, and I imagine we all have this in childhood, this real kind of connection with the landscape. You know, you're really a part of it rather than it's scenery, it's decoration. And I started to realize that there was communication, and that kind
with
of
like with you and nature,
of being seen as woo-woo. Deeply ironic given where I am today. But yeah, just opening myself to that led me to think, oh, that there's this hollow in my life, and I'm trying to fill it with more and more and more things. And you know, I've done that. It's not working. It doesn't matter what I do with my hair or my clothes. You can't buy your way to a new you. You really can't. We've all tried. Yeah. No, it doesn't work. So I thought, what if I try something else to fill this void? And I started looking into those things I'd always avoided as a bit sort of hippie or a bit weird or a bit woo-woo. And that led me to Druidry. And just what I was experiencing at the time with the landscape and my connection to it. As soon as I started reading about Druidry, I was like, bam, this is it. This is exactly the thing that I've been looking for.
Yeah.
It's here, and it's been here all along under my nose.
I think a lot of us do that. I think we remember past lives, past connections, whatever. Had you before that, when you say woo-woo, which I love, that's a brilliant term, had you always been kind of intrigued by the spiritual side of things?
Yeah, definitely. I was a strange child.
Join the club. We're led there, aren't we? We are led. When you look back, you can see the little seeds that were planted.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Druidry rather than any of the others? What was that? Just a specific thing? Was that the first one that kind of shouted to you? Rather than witchcraft?
A number of things. I'd kind of dabbled, and that is the best word, to be honest. I'd dabbled in Wicca and witchcraft when I was younger, and the connection wasn't there. Like, I felt like I was shouting into a void in a way. It just didn't speak to me in the way that Druidry does. I mean, there's a lot of beauty in it. It's a wonderful thing, but it wasn't the right path for me.
I think it's interesting, the consumerist side of it. We all like pretty things. When I started, I had a list of stuff that I thought I needed to work with craft. Yeah. But actually, I think the further I've got along my path, the further I realise I don't. But do you think there is a problem with the consumerist consumption side within paganism and the community? You know, crystals and all the environmental stuff.
Yes, I do think there's a problem. Without wishing to be sort of too controversial, I don't think it's sort of specifically a pagan problem. It is our culture at large. It is very much, if you want to do a thing, you go out and buy all the equipment. But I think that for people who often have a connection with nature or follow an earth-based path, I think maybe we need to be looking closer at what we're buying, where it's come from, where it's made. I mean, it doesn't just appear in the pretty gift shops. You know, there's resources that have gone into that. There's somebody's hands somewhere along the line have made that, or somebody's lands have been cleared to build the factory that made it. And we maybe need to be not putting our heads in the sand quite so much about it.
Yeah. I think we can still have stuff, isn't it? But I think from that point of view, it's about leading to more homemade stuff, more independence, more individual people, rather than the big, huge companies.
Yeah, I mean, not to be too cliche, but we call it the craft, and there's a reason for that. Like, we need to yourself.
I think it's easy though, isn't it? It's easy to get caught into that trap of, like I say, I had a long list. I thought I needed candles in every colour and wands and athames and chalices and I do still work with some of them, but there's so much nature can provide for us to work with, and other things as well, like charity shops, to buy secondhand things. But it's a different way of thinking, I think, isn't it? Retraining your brain.
Yeah, and it is a little bit counterintuitive, because we are so encouraged to accumulate. Like, you don't just buy one oracle deck, you have, you know, a dozen. I'm not pointing it. I'm just as bad myself.
Naming and shaming now. I think there's something in tarot decks and oracle decks, crystals as well, perhaps. You can't just have one.
No.
But it is, we encourage each other too, don't we? We are, yeah.
And it's very Instagrammable if you have a collection of anything, and that feeds into it as well. And I sound very sort of, I am the shopping police, you must not buy, you must not have pretty things, and I don't mean that at all. But I mean, crystals being a good example, they are, of course, a limited resource. And there's lots of books and resources out there that treat them as very disposable, you know, throw it in the river, bury it in the garden, and who find it for a start. Child labour is a real problem with crystals, and I'm such a party pooper, I know. But
No, don't make apologies for any of it. I think it is something that we all need to be aware of. And again, it's retraining our brains to think about it. I do know a lot of the crystal shops now are mindful of where things are sourced from.
It's a lot more to think about now.
Yeah. It's heading in the right direction, definitely. But we go for whatever's cheapest a lot of the time, don't we, without thinking about what's behind it.
Yeah, and I realised that in many cases, like, people have to go for the cheapest thing. Like that's why we have fast fashion and supermarkets, because people do need to sort of operate on a tight budget. And it's easy for me to come in and say, oh no, you mustn't buy cheap things. So I mean, at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you, but like we still have to discuss it.
It's other options, though, isn't it? We've mentioned charity shops. I've got some brilliant crystals that have come from charity, great big pieces of crystal that have come from charity shops for peanuts, really.
Yeah.
But I think it's a society thing, isn't it? It is. We've got to rethink, we've got to relook at it. And I think perhaps as pagans, we're probably in the right place to do it with our base belief system, with climate change, with society, with everything that's happening. Do you draw on your Druid roots to help you deal with that, or to help see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you're following an earth-based path, you very much have to engage with the world as it is, not this sort of romanticized, beautiful landscapes. You know, that's not the world we've got at the moment. And we kind of have to face up to what we've done, what's changed, how it's going to change, not to get apocalyptic, but I think to deny that undermines that connection in so many ways. We're doing ourselves and the earth a disservice if we don't face up to the situation as it is and still connect.
Yeah.
Like, not be afraid of having that communication with a damaged ecosystem. I'm not sure if I'm making sense at this point.
No, you are. Yes, you are, absolutely. I think I sometimes refer to humans as being an infestation on the planet, because I think that's pretty much what we are. We've done the damage. It's bound to affect the energies, and as well the energies that we can't see, climate change and all the ecosystem. We can obviously see the damage that we've done, but I think there's a lot of damage we've done to the actual energy of nature.
Again, not to get too controversial, but I feel there's an element our rituals, and we're saying, oh, I invoke the water, when, you know, everything we're putting down the drains when we do our hair, when we wash our bodies, our clothes, is damaging to that element. It doesn't make sense to me to do that. I know we can't all be perfectly green, and there's still the budget aspect for many people, and we can only do what we can do, but you have to do that and not shy away from it and not gloss over it.
I think it's little things, isn't it? If we can all start with little things, then you can build up. I'm a working mother with children. When the children were younger, I was working to a very strict budget, food wise particularly, and clothes wise. Now the kids are sort of grown up, one's left home. We have got a little bit of extra spare cash. So now I can buy organic things. Now I can start replacing my bottles of soap and shampoo with eco-friendly ones, no plastic. So you do have to work your budget, absolutely, but little tiny things make a difference.
Yeah, and sometimes like the biggest thing we can do is to just not buy so much. We're hearing a lot at the moment about decluttering, and people get rid of stuff and then buy it back, and just stop.
I do. Where does it come from? I'm always doing, there's a charity bag collection this week. I'll clear out my cupboard. Where does it? How do I manage to replace it all? I think my wardrobe's magic. I think it regenerates it. Having said that, I do buy an awful lot of things from charity, clothes-wise. Charity shops are my first port of call. They're good deals more than anything as well.
Love a good charity shop.
Yeah. So you're doing Druid training. Are you with a particular group?
I am still waffling between OBOD and the BDO.
Okay.
I started with OBOD, but I might go the other way. I don't know. I want to know it all, but there's only so much room in here,
So OBOD in particular, I'm familiar with OBOD slightly. They have 3 grades, don't they? So you start with the Bardic grade. Is it still relevant in today's modern world? Can you relate that? Because the Bardic is a storyteller, isn't it, basically? Is that relevant still?
Honestly, I think that's absolutely what the world needs now. That sounds very cheesy, but sorry, my cat's biting my away, Tim. But no, I think that imagination and creativity, I think that's what we need at the moment. I mean, our society, if you can't put a price on it, if you can't make a profit from it, or, fit it in a nice, pretty grid for Instagram, a lot of the time there isn't space for it. And I love that the concept of the Bardic grade is holding that space for artists and dancers and poets and painters and myth makers, all those sorts of people. Like, I think the way our times are going and things are changing, not just the climate, but the way our society is, there might be a time again when we do get together and tell stories around the fire, when that's really back to being something that's venerated in a community. And if we haven't held space for that, those are not going to be skills that people have anymore. I think it's really important, actually, and I think it has a lot of value in today's world, and even more so in tomorrow's.
Oh, that makes total sense. I think we're bombarded every day, aren't we, with media, with adverts, with everyone's pretty sure the telly's listening to you or your phone's listening to you, because as soon as you mention something, all the ads start coming up on your social media, don't they? But we're bombarded by it, aren't we? This whole need. You've got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to have all these things. It's instant too.
Yes. And on an individual level, it's much better for you to create something, anything, stickmen, than to just sort of passively consume what other people have made.
I think it has more, if you've made something, like you say, even if it is a stick man, it's got your energy in it, hasn't it? So it's going to be more personal to you and more powerful.
Yeah, I suppose in many ways it's the concept of beginner's mind almost, isn't it? Like, you haven't got to be good at the thing, you just have to make time and space in your life to try.
Yeah.
And I love that there's a space for that within Druidry that says this is an important and valuable thing. Right, especially as somebody who loves writing, obviously.
I guess we kind of go round in circles. To me, when I was young, my parents didn't have much money, so my clothes were all made. They were all handmade for me. I child in the early 70s with crochet dresses and matching crochet knickers. But and it was all homemade. But now, and I learned crochet in lockdown, the wool and the materials for it cost so much money that it's actually cheaper to buy it ready-made. It's mad.
Yeah, it's big companies.
Yeah.
Because they're selling things on such a vast scale, of course, they can take a loss, so they can sell individual items so cheaply.
Yeah.
And it is strange that we don't reflect the value of an item in the price of it. You know, the material alone of a £1.50 t-shirt is worth more than £1.50, let alone the wages of the person that made it. It doesn't make sense that we're doing that. And it is all about profit. It's all about profit for the people at the top.
When you get a t-shirt that costs £1.50, you've got to stop and wonder what the situation or for the person that actually made it. It's horrifying to think about, really.
Yeah, so we don't, do we? We just put it in the basket, don't think, keep going.
Yeah.
Pile it up, sell it cheap.
I'm been there, done that. I'm shopping. Shopping was always I think a lot of us do it as a sort of therapy.
Yeah.
Is that where yours came from?
Amongst many other things. I mean, you can use it for everything if you want to. And I mean, goodness knows I did. You can use it to celebrate. You can use it to commiserate. You can use it if you feel a bit rough. You can use it to make yourself feel better. Every occasion, you can buy something to fix it. But it doesn't at the end of the day. It just, you're papering over the cracks all the time.
It's that instant thing, isn't it? And I think society today is very much about instant fixes.
Yeah.
Particularly, well, even in our own pagan community, I do have people coming to me that want to learn witchcraft now, all of it, because they want a quick fix for something. They think a spell is just going to fix every problem in their life right there and then. They don't actually want to do the work.
Nice. That would be nice if it did work that way.
Yeah. That's society, I guess, though, isn't it? I think it is. I say people in general, but obviously with exclusions, they want something and they want it now. Is that generational thing, maybe? The way that children are brought up with all the social media thrown at them these days?
It could well be. But then if it was a generational thing, I think it's crossed those lines now. I mean, we've all bought something next day delivery, or
I'm very familiar with the parcel delivery man. Do you think that following a spiritual path, whether it is Druidry, whether it is paganism as a whole, can help us with that, dealing with the being less consumerist?
I think so. I absolutely think so. And I don't think it has to be paganism. Obviously, that was where I ended up. But I think, I mean, in many ways, even paganism, when I was first sort of starting to read books about it, there was a lot of emphasis on abundance and manifestation and presenting the universe with your Amazon wish list.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of other older religions, or equally ancient religions from different parts of the world, have emphasized different values like simplicity or frugality. And I think maybe that's something we can learn from as we sort of go forward into these really uncertain times. I think maybe we need to start thinking that way rather than expecting abundance to come as easily to us as it does now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that having something spiritual in your life is always going to help you.
It's interesting you mentioned the manifesting. More recently, I've seen courses offered or books or workshops on manifesting the full moon or whatever it might be, but run by people that aren't pagan, that aren't druids, that aren't witches, that are just, they've jumped on the bandwagon, so to speak, about asking for this stuff. So let's put it out there that this is what we need, this is what we want, this is what we want, this is what we want. I changed the want from need, because that's but we are, that's just asking. You can't keep asking for stuff, can you? You can't. There has to be some
give as well as some take.
Yeah.
I mean, the myths that underpin Druidry, for example, there's such an emphasis on generosity and hospitality and service, and that's something that we're lacking, I think, in the wider culture.
Yeah.
Not that people aren't generous, obviously people give to charity and so forth, but it's getting out that mindset of expecting things to come to you and be bestowed upon you while you sort of transcend the material world. You can't have it both ways.
No. Also, I noticed in your book you have a chapter on the goddess Bridget. Has she featured quite strongly in your journey, and why her particularly?
Because she came along and gave me a kick up the butt, not to put too fine a point on it. I've read all these things online about how people have had messages from goddesses and gods and spirits, and I've always thought, oh, that's really nice, yeah, lovely, amazing, incredible, but it's not going to happen to me. And then Bridget happened, and everywhere I went, everything I did, I could be flicking through a novel and the character would be Bridget. Or everything I picked up, it was like my partner described it as a spiritual Where's Wally. I couldn't walk down a street. And I said to him one night, I said, do you think I'm crazy? Like, am I making this up? Am I sort of deluding myself that something is happening because I so want to be spiritual and mystical and the amazing magic lady? And as I was saying it, I was reading some samples on Kindle, and there was a picture, and I couldn't see the picture, so I zoomed in, and it was a map of Bridget's sacred places, and I just turned the tablet around to him, and we just looked at each other, and he said, right, yeah, okay, let's set up an altar in the morning. Ridiculous.
I have found personally that being kicked up the butt works.
It took me a long time to listen. I was, when you're really in your own head, and with me at that time, I hate to say, it was, what am I going to buy next? What am I going to wear tomorrow? Is my Pinterest board okay? What am I going to post on Instagram? And it was all this sort of very, very superficial surface noise all the time. And just to sort of let a chink into that armor that suggested, there's more to the world than what you're seeing. You are skating over the surface, and there is so much more down there, and it wants to talk to you. That was amazing. It was, as I say, this whole thing changed my life. I think because it allowed me to be re-enchanted in that way. I know that's such a buzzword at the moment, but just
perfect.
Open myself to the possibility, not only that there is a goddess, or there are goddesses, depending on your perspective, and they're not a painting on a wall in a church. They're here and imminent, and you have a two-way communication. It blew my mind, and it blows my mind every day that we live in that world. I don't see it.
It becomes a relationship, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And just to have almost stumbled across it, not looking for it, kind of having given up on it in a way, was
maybe that's what you needed to do first.
Yeah, if you sort of thrash around trying to have a spiritual experience, it doesn't work, or it didn't for me, certainly.
There's some interesting comments here, so let's put some of them up. Success and failure, this is from Elena. Success and failure have very different forms and outcomes than we ever think, and that's one of the reasons I love your book. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It's true though, isn't it? Successes and failures are all different and will be different for each person too.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Oh, so DIY is sacred. It is, absolutely. Oh, another vote for charity shops. Opal Moon. I love going to the charity shop. You always find some treasures.
It's nice that the dialogue about charity shops has changed now. Like, I think it's obviously I'm not down with the kids, but I think it's quite cool now. Whereas when I was a teenager, I used to sort of skulk into Oxfam like this.
Yeah. Yes, it was. You didn't want to be seen going into a charity shop, did you? No, it wasn't the thing. Although I have noticed that some of them have cottoned on to some of the higher price labels of things now. Charity shops aren't quite as cheap as they used to be. But it's not just clothes, is it? We've had some fantastic pieces of furniture that we've bought from charity shops too, and I love the history behind pieces of furniture too. They all come with that energy to them.
You get a story, don't you? Not just an item.
Absolutely. Let's just there we are. See, we said that. Thanks for being controversial, says Mariana.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of votes for charity shops. Lots of votes. Oh, they are. Annette. Annette has a bundle of sticks in my porch waiting to be made into something. There you go.
Stick buddies.
But that stick buddies, I like that. Marianne's the same, but making some wreath style creations from grapevines we had to trim yesterday.
Oh, wow.
That is if you had to trim something in your garden, that's again reusing, isn't it? It's reusing the items for something else. So
it's still out there. It's still a thing that people are doing. It hasn't sort of been completely lost in all this commercialism that we have now. That's really heartening, actually.
Yes. I think there's a crochet comment here from Eleanor again. Crochet especially can only be handmade. So if you buy it, some had to make it by hand for probably pennies. Yeah. Although I have got, there is a fellow Moonbooks author that I've seen buys second-hand woolen things in charity shops and undoes all of the thread to make it into yarn again and then makes her thing.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
See, this should be more of a thing. There should be like pagan stitch and bitch groups. I would turn up for that.
Yeah, put that out there. If anyone fancies organising that. Damien's got a good point. We live such busy lives. Sometimes it's finding the time to make things. How did you work that into your schedule? Because you've got a little one too, haven't you?
I do have a little one, and I'm also a full-time carer, so I absolutely appreciate that finding time is sometimes the hardest thing to do. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you do you. But of course, if you're buying that sort of cheap Chinese factory-made item, you're getting that energy that comes with it. I know that's easy for me to say. So I do think it's worth finding the time, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to sit and crochet a cardigan.
I couldn't. I think it's about working things in as well, isn't it, to your schedule?
Yeah, absolutely.
Making things work for you. I've been known to ground and center whilst sitting on the toilet because that was the only 5 minutes I got to myself. You have got to make it work for you, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, personally, a lot of my busyness is quite often it's like rubbish busyness. Like I'm oh, I'm super busy, I didn't have time to do that, but actually I'm on Facebook. So hopefully that's just a me thing and not kind of a universal thing. I hope we're not all wasting time like I do.
I think we are. You get sucked into it, don't you?
So for me, like, I can find 10 minutes here or there because I can chisel it out of that wasted social media time. Obviously there's people who have got a lot more going on than me.
No, I think it is. It's about readjusting your schedule, and most of us could probably find a little bit of time where we are normally doing Facebook things. Or let's not knock Facebook because they're very useful. Yes, it's easy to lose a lot of time scrolling.
But I mean, like, when you do make a purchase, because we all have to, you can't just stop. Yeah. There's usually a better option than the mass produced. I mean, there's some amazing witches markets now and that kind of thing, and Etsy, and you can find somebody who's made it with their own hands. And I always think that's a better option as well, to support an artisan or a small business.
Yeah.
Rather than, 97 plastic broomstick pens or like witches brew mugs.
Which is tat, as I call it. Yeah, there's a lot of that about these days, which is a shame. It is a real shame, because there are some amazing crafters, and like you say, artisans, and it's just a little bit of extra time searching them out, really, isn't it?
Yeah, just thinking about the purchase rather than Amazon, 2 clicks, done.
Annette's trying to wean herself off of Amazon, but it's so darn convenient. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I've been trying to sort of wean myself off of it, but
it's baby steps, isn't it? If you think ahead about things, it's just changing the way you think a little bit, I guess. Barbara makes the point, things have gone up since COVID. Lots of things. I've noticed the food bill in particular has gone up quite a lot. Hopefully,
and it's this cost
but I'm all for local produce. I think you'll probably have the same mindset, that sourcing local suppliers for vegetables and fruit and your meat and everything, and seasonal. Because seasonal is always cheaper and tastes better. But again, it's just the little small changes.
Yeah. And it's like, nobody is doing this perfectly. It's doing your best. Yeah. That's all we can do, I think. And actually to talk about it and try to sort of push for change from higher up. Like, we've talked very much about individual choices, but the fact is, we're not the ones setting the prices, we're not the ones cutting the costs or raising them, so we also kind of need to be aware as well about trying to make change higher up the chain, agitating in a nice, polite, pagan-y way if we must, but yeah, it's not all on our shoulders.
No. We actually, before the camera went on, we were talking about sacred places. And I think it's very easy to be drawn into I've got to go to Glastonbury, I've got to go to Stonehenge, they are the sacred places. Sometimes it can cost quite a lot of money to get to those places. And sometimes a bit of the consumerist stuff takes over. Do you have other options when you want to go to a sacred space? Where's your favourite sacred place?
My back garden.
Yeah.
I think we very much overlook our own landscapes. I know it's not glamorous, it's not Avery, it's not Stonehenge. I know that it doesn't look as great in the sunset, but I think there's more value in connecting with the spirits of place where you are all the time, than kind of being one of thousands at a site that's kind of over touristed, where gift shops have sprung up, or if they've got a merch stall for the solstice. It misses the point in so many ways, I think, when the same energies that you're trying to connect to are beneath your feet all the time.
Yeah, wholehearted. We probably just upset everybody, but you and me are all right. I'm with you on that one. I am. There is the ground beneath your feet wherever you are. And I think, like your own garden, mine's my sanctuary. It's got my energy in it.
Yeah.
It hasn't got great big stones in it, but...
No, I haven't got my personal circle out the back. I wish.
But it also hasn't had lots of tourists tramping through it.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Interesting one here from Elena, from Damien, which you might be able to help. I overthink spending, but will sometimes do. You're nodding your head already, but sometimes do a random compulsive buy.
Yes, once you've started trying to cut down on the spending and kind of looking at your behaviors, you can really overthink it and you get really guilty. And yeah, there's a whole, maybe it's my generation, but I don't know anyone who's got a good grasp on all this kind of shopping, financial, personal image stuff. Everybody's kind of in a tangle with it and just doing their best. So I think if you're doing the occasional splurge, what more can you do, to be honest?
I think
better than compulsive buy than just this constant influx. I think
we all overthink a lot of things quite a lot, don't we? I think it's one of those things,
and it's another example of where we're kind of taking it all on our shoulders, especially if you're generally a sort of eco-conscious person. There is this tendency to try and fix the world by yourself, and sadly it doesn't work that way.
No. Good point here from Eleanor. I see a lot of people doing spells for money in abundance and no one doing spells for how to handle it wisely once you get it.
Yeah.
On that, nailed it. Yeah, on that. That's very true. I'm guessing spend it is not the right answer.
No, I don't need any help with that. I can do that.
It's true though, isn't it? All of this abundance and manifesting, but not actually the financial security or wisdom that's needed once you've got it. Very good.
And again,
I don't think we have an answer really, do we?
If I had all the answers, I would definitely have a best-selling book.
I think you're well on the way. Another question, actually. Eleanor's got some brilliant questions today. What's your advice for someone who feels lost and wishes they could be called by some higher power, as you were by Bridget?
That's a really good question. Obviously, for me, when I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. I was tying myself in knots trying to be spiritual and wise, and it wasn't working. And it was only when I really was lost and in a bit of a mess that I was able to make the space in my life to notice that I was being called. If it had happened 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have noticed, because I would have been looking at my phone and scrolling and shopping and totally caught up in my own nonsense. So I think you have to, again, this is easy for me to say, not knowing your personal circumstances, but you really have to make that space and focus and be able to go inwards, but also outwards, not to be too paradoxical. But if I hadn't been taking that time to be outdoors and connect with what was right there in front of me, I don't think I ever would have had that communication. I don't think I would.
It's listening to, isn't it? And being aware once they start waving at us.
Yeah, and not just, because a lot of it is very subtle, and you can be saying to yourself, oh, is that just what I want to be happening?
Yeah.
Am I kidding myself? you have to trust.
Yeah.
That's very, there's echoes of other faiths there with this, you mustn't test, you must only believe. Like, quite that way.
I have to put Annette's up. Annette says, I'm not so creative. Well, on a 5-year-old's level, really, but it doesn't stop you doing it, which is the point, isn't it? That's the point.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. It'll have your energy on it.
And I know a lot of people that say they're not creative while they're doing some really quite amazing things. But we are, again, we're trained that if it's not profitable, it doesn't count.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, a meal or a well-kept house or a good outfit, like those things are creative too. It's not necessarily, you don't have to be Van Gogh or Van Gogh.
I think we do, though, don't we? I've seen people put photos of things on social media and say, it's not perfect, but I made this.
Yeah.
We apologise first. That's just, yeah, that's the whole social media thing, isn't it? I don't think this is good enough.
Yeah, that seems to be the base setting for me and for a lot of other people. Like, I have made this thing and I'm really proud of it, but
but I couldn't sell it because it's not good enough.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Please don't judge too harshly. It's not good enough. It is good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had some brilliant questions. Is there anything you'd particularly like to end with, to sum up with? There's so much we haven't covered. Wave your book at people because it is fantastic. You need to, apart from the fact that the image is amazing, it's got so much useful insight, I think is the correct word for it.
Thank you. I was very much, when I wrote it, because obviously it is my personal story, I sort of thought, oh, what will people be able to take from this? And yet the feedback I've had from the early readers has been very positive, which is lovely. So I think
it's relatable. We can all relate to your story, and I think that's what makes it important.
Thank you.
So, any last word of wisdom other than make it, don't buy it?
Just flicking through my notes.
There has been some brilliant comments from people about crocheting being meditative, which yes, it is. About being mindful.
Yeah.
About being mindful of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it exactly. I know mindfulness is such a big buzzword at the moment, and there's all these sort of very trendy magazines. Breathe and take time, and things are simple, but also buy all of our products. But there's a lot of value from the concept, as we all know.
We do encourage you to buy the book. Books are fine. Books don't count in the consumer.
It's very much my attitude. It's knowledge. You need knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you to everyone for your comments. Katrina, I'm sure we'll look through them all afterwards because I couldn't get them all up on the screen. Do have a look. Can people find you on social media?
Yes, I gave it up for a long time, but I'm giving it another go. Hopefully I can use it in moderation. But I am on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook under the name Katrina Townsend, and I'm on Instagram at Katrina Townsend Author.
Cool. And you can find details of the book on the Moon Books website as well. Thank you so much, Katrina. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm sure my husband will make me read it. I have skipped through it and it does look fascinating. And our talk today was so enlightening. I will be reading it thoroughly, cover to cover. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the waffle.
Yeah. The waffle, yeah, we like waffle. Stay with us, people. The next talk will be coming up on the hour. And thank you so much for Katrina. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.